A very good morning, this is Hugo here, and welcome to yet another week of Patterns of Influence. I've heard some feedback from many of you regarding your first week of experience with our website and also our learning programs. So for many of you, you have yet to even finish learning the content that we have on week 1. And I'm so excited to share with you a lot more exciting programs that can help you to communicate better, that can help you to influence people better, and to help you to actually gain the kind of confidence that allows you to speak in the public whenever that you need to speak, that enable you to network and connect with the people that you desire to communicate with, and ultimately to really make an impact, whether in your leadership or influencer capacity. So this week we have a very exciting topic, because if you have been reading the book 1 that I've provided you in PDF, it is about, 20, 30, 40 pages of all the notes that we will be using at least for the coming few months as we dive deep into the content. So how many of you watching this have actually read this book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages? It's definitely a bestseller on many lists. On how many lists, I do not keep track. In fact, to be honest, I have not even finished reading this book. But what I really love about this book is that if you don't have it, I can put the Amazon link below, you can get it. Or you can get it at your nearest major bookstores. I'm sure they have it in stock. So one of the things that I really love about this book is that the core idea about what this book is about is, most of the time when we try to relate to someone, we relate to them in terms of our own values. True. Meaning, if we like ice cream, we want to bring someone else to an ice cream parlor and things like that, right? Because we think in terms of what we like, what we need, and what we want. And we assume that what is good for us would be good for the other person that you're trying to connect to, would be relevant to the other person that you try to reach out to. And many times, because we project our own values on other people, we fail to build the rapport that we could. Okay, so let's look at some of the key principles we have in this book before we jump right into our NLP topic of the week. And I will show you why these two are so closely related. Okay, so let's look at the 5 love languages, right? So the few things that they highlighted in the book is, number 1 is words of affirmation. And then, of course, there's touch. Of course, there is service, acts of service. Of course, there is time, whether it's in quantity or it is in quality. And of course, there is also give. Okay. So when we look at this book, you can uncover the 5 love languages: words, touch, service, time, and give. Okay, so how does that relate to you, right? This is how it works. For example, have you ever seen couples or even friends or even business partner, right? When they come together and then they say that they always get into this argument, like let's say the wife telling the husband that, why is it that you no longer love me like before? And the husband is scratching the head. How can it be? I always buy you so many presents, right? I remember your anniversaries and I always get you good things whenever I come back from my working trips and whatever is it. But how is it that the spouse or the wife does not feel love? What is the reason? The reason is because perhaps the wife language of love is not give. It could be something else. Example, in our Asian culture, it's very rare for someone to express their feelings in words. True. I'm sure you can see it between their parents and kids. You can also sometimes even see between spouses, husband and wife as well. And you can also see it between teacher and students. Rarely do we express how we feel in words. If someone is doing something good, very rarely do we praise them. But if they do something bad, we are so quickly to judge them, condemn them, or criticize them, right? Okay, when we come back to here, What if the language that resonates with the wife, let's say Sarah, right? So Sarah and Jim. What resonates with Sarah is words, right? Like phrases like telling her, I love you often and things like that, right? But what Jim fails to do is that Jim does not express his love through words. He expresses it through giving gifts. So we can see there is a clear disconnect. And that is how a lot of misunderstanding or inability to build rapport over time happens. Because two persons have different languages and they don't realize it. So how does this relate to our topic for today? If you are looking at your notes, the one that I've mailed to you, the first book, you can flip to the page. It's probably in the first few pages where you can see something called the NLP representational systems. Okay, let's go straight into it, right? So in the NLP representational system, you can see this. VAKOG, and I'm going to explain to you right away what is it all about, right? VAKOG. Okay. If you have read up on the NLP presuppositions, meaning the attitudes and the mindset, the mind frame that you want to take on when we work with people, right? One of the key presuppositions that I really like is communication is the response that you get. It means that it doesn't matter what is your intention when you are trying to communicate with someone. It only matters what is it that the person receiving it, hearing it, do they get what is it that you are trying to communicate? If they don't, it simply means you didn't communicate. True. Okay, so there are a few things that we want to really ram into your mind, right? What is all this about? You see, many of us have very different reasons why we get started in the study of influence of NLP, right? And for me personally, is the ability to communicate, to build rapport with people. And one of the most important lessons that I've learned is people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And most of the time, they also do not care how much you care until they really know that you care. So for many times where we try to build the connection with the client that you're meeting, or build the connection with the person that you're trying to persuade or win over or attract, there must be an understanding of what that person's language of communication is. How does he or she expresses themselves, right? Himself or herself. Which way that I can build a bridge in order for my messages to be communicated clearly and for her or him to receive it clearly as per my intention. Okay, so let's look at here. This is actually the representation of the 5 senses that we have. And some people, not just some people, in fact every one of us has 1 or 2 that are more dominant than the others. And it will translate in the way we speak, in the words we use, our body language, and the way we store information, and the way we are being influenced is also by the 5 senses. So what are they? I think I have it in your book, right? So if you look at V is visual, A is auditory, K is kinesthetic, O is olfactory, G is gustatory. So what we have over here is that we have how you see it, how you hear it, how you sense it, touch it, how you smell it, how you taste it. So all these are the 5 senses that all of us has. But some of them are more dominant than the others. If you look at the way I speak, and if you hear the words I speak, for example, I always use the word see. Can you see what I'm saying? Do you have a picture in your mind when I'm trying to illustrate this whole program to you? Do you have an idea what is it? Can you see how it all connects? When I use languages like this, it means that one of my dominant representation system, of course I have the test for you to identify which one you are. It means that you could be a very visual person. So what does that mean, you ask? If you are a visual person, it means that the language that connects to you the best is the one where it's very illustrative, right? Let's say if you go for a holiday and then you come back, right? And then you could be saying things like, for example, the scenery is amazing. If you look at the colors of the sky, it has this reddish hue to it, and the people, the clothes they are wearing, they are so fashionable. I can see the way they style it. The way you illustrate or describe things is very visual oriented. And usually people who are very visual oriented, if this is you, you will tend to speak very fast. You see, so there is a profile, right? There is a profile. If you're a very visual person, you tend to speak very fast. And you take very shallow breath, right? You speak very fast. You also try to think and make decisions very fast because you are a very visual person. Sometimes when someone sends you a message, right? Let's say your good friend David sent you a voice message, or when the teacher is teaching in class, right? When the teacher is teaching in class, when she say out all the great points and things like that, if you have a challenge or a trouble actually getting and remembering the information, when someone say it to you, maybe you could be a visual person. So what are we actually getting into? We are getting into how you learn is affected by the representation system. If you are someone who is very auditory, whenever the instructor say anything to you, you can remember it clearly because you are a very auditory person. You remember what you hear, right? When people give you direction, first you go straight, then you turn right, things like that. If you are a very visual person, you can imagine the location and the scenes and sights. And if you are an auditory person, you can remember what you hear better. So if you look at the current state of social media, right? In the past, there are a lot of text. They write very long blogs and things like that. And then you move on to people like to post a lot of pictures. True. Pictures is like the new currency, right? People like to look at beautiful sights or beautiful people and things like that. And the need for glossy magazine-like pictures, to do well in Instagram. So all these are very visual. Humans, a lot of them are very visual creatures. And now there is a shift to things like more people are getting into the video business, right? Making videos just like this, where you are seeing me, not just hearing me and seeing me in movements. They are also into TikTok, right? And all these kind of things, where they are movement. So here's the thing. Why is it that video engagement is at all-time high? Why is it that people resonate so much with video? Because if you think about this, if you only see a picture, right? You scroll your phone, you see a picture. How many of these senses that it actually engage? It only engages your visual. You can only see the picture, right? But if I put the picture together with an audio, there are some trainers that put a quote with an audio along, right? How many senses does that engage you? Visual and auditory. Just like you are hearing MP3, right? It's auditory. Okay. So what is so special about video? Because in video, you can see it, you can hear it, and that's why it is more engaging. It's engaging more senses of the audience. Okay, let's come back to this, right? We are talking about VAKOG. If you're a very kinesthetic person, right, it means that you could be using words like I feel, I think, feels very smooth. So you have a very touch-based, sense-based, feel-based, emotion-based kind of way of describing the world around you. And that is the same language that you're most receptive with. Most people that are kinesthetic based in their representation system tends to have more deep breath. They need to internalize what happened, right, before they can respond to a person. So if you're watching this, remember to take the test to know which category are you. Okay. And after you have identified this, right, how does this relate to how you build rapport with another person? So let's just say if Sarah is meeting Jim, right? Sarah is meeting Jim, and Sarah is trying to do a presentation on why her products or services is the ideal right choice for Jim to purchase. What Sarah can actually consider doing is, in our interaction when we are doing our small talk, when we are doing our introduction, to really pay attention on his or her body language. In the coming videos, you will learn things like how to observe the movement of the eye and the body language. But most of the time, you can also observe the kind of words that they use. What kind of words do they resonate with? When you hear Jim saying things like, well, I'm really looking at a plan that is really suited for me. Do you have some illustration about how it works? Can you illustrate it out for me? Things like that. All these are signs, right? No one sign is a representation of what kind of profile a person is. We must look at multiple signs, right? From their body language, from their words. And we can have a rough deduction about what kind of person Jim is. Assuming Jim is a very visual person, true. But the way you communicate to Jim is very auditory. So what happens here? When you don't type over messages, you leave voicemails, right? You don't illustrate out what is your plan like. You use language that is more visual, more auditory than visual. How do you think Jim would respond? The engagement, the rapport will be weakened. Why is it? Because Jim is not getting what Sarah is saying. You know, Sarah is not illustrating out the plan to give him a clear picture, right? The way Sarah speaks doesn't gel with Jim. Have you ever had this feeling when you're talking with someone and then you just doesn't feel the bond, right? You just doesn't want to hear what the person is saying. Why is that so? Right? Why is that so? It's because you could attribute it to there is no chemistry and things like that. But all these can be broken down into exact sciences on why someone is not feeling what you are saying. So this is one of the reasons. So let's recap what we have talked about so far. We have talked about the 5 languages of love, and then we try to reference it and relate it to our VAKOG, NLP representational systems. We know that these are the 5 senses. We know that everyone has a dominant system, has a dominant representational system, and that influences how they communicate, that influences how they learn, that influences how they are being influenced, that influences how they store their information. So there are 5 categories here. And we also learned that each of these has a different profile, not just in words they use, but the body language, the way they express themselves, right? So we also learned that one of the best ways to build rapport, to connect with people, is to connect with people on the language that they resonate with, right? Do not connect with people with what you are comfortable with, because communication is about your response you get. NLP is not just about communicating with others, but it's also a self-discovery process. So go do the test in book 1 and find out which profile are you. True. Yep, that would be really beneficial. So besides that, do remember to check out my YouTube channel at Hugo Tan TV. We are really excited to really grow our community so that we can reach out to more people, especially those with different industries. Because the more diverse our community is, the more we can learn from. And the more we hear feedback on how it is being applied in different industries across the board, don't you think you would have been able to understand this better and internalize the concepts that we're going to share with you in the coming weeks? So that's all for this week. As usual, if there are any comments or feedbacks, do write to me by email or you can comment in my social media. And I will see you soon. Take care.